teachings of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says we must never forget that we are here to serve the supramental truth and light and to prepare its manifestation in ourselves and upon the earth. With my love and blessing, says our Divine Mother.
Was the faithful quest. Still, she found not the one predestined fate for which she sought amid the sons of men.
Words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo from the collective works of our Lord Sri Aurobindo book Lights on Yoga. Topic: Planes and Paths of the Being. Page 16. New stanza. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the mental being within watches, observes, and passes judgments on all that happens in you. The psychic does not watch and observe in this way like a witness, but it feels and knows spontaneously in a much more direct and luminous way by the very purity of its own nature and the divine instinct within it. And so, whenever it comes to the front, it reveals at once what are the right and what the wrong movements in our nature. The being of man is composed of these elements, the psychic behind, supporting all, the inner mental, vital and physical, the outer, quite external nature of mind, life and body, which is the instruments of expression. But above all is the central being, Atman, which uses them all for its manifestation. It is a portion of the divine self, but this reality of himself is hidden from the external man who replaces this inmost self and soul of him by the mental and vital ego. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says it is only those who have begun to know themselves that become aware of the true central being. But still it is always there standing behind the action of mind, life and body and is most directly represented by the psychic, which is itself a spark of the divine. It is by the growth of the psychic element in one's nature that one begins to come into conscious touch with one's central being above. When that happens and the central being uses a conscious will to control and organize the movements of the nature, it is then that one has a real, a spiritual as opposed to a partial and merely mental or moral self-mastery. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the phrase central being in our integral yoga is usually applied to the portion of the divine in us which supports all the rest and survives through death and birth. This central being has two forms. Above it is the Jivatman, our true being, of which we become aware when the higher self-knowledge comes, because it is the psychic being which stands behind mind, body and life. The Jivatman is above the manifestation in life and presides over it. The psychic being stands behind the manifestation in life and supports it. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the natural attitude of the psychic being is to feel itself as a child, the son of God, the Bhakta. It is a portion of the divine, one in essence, but in the dynamics of the manifestation, there is always, even in identity, a difference. The Jivatman, on the contrary, lives in the essence and can emerge and can merge itself in identity with the divine. But it too, the moment it presides over the dynamics of the manifestation, knows itself as one center of the multiple divine, not as the Parameshwara. It is important to remember the distinction, for otherwise there is the least vital egoism. One may begin to think of oneself as an avatar or lose balance like a Hridaya with Ramakrishna. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the spirit is the Atman, Brahman, essential divine. When the one divine manifests in its ever inherent multiplicity, this essential self or Atman becomes for that manifestation the central being who presides from above over the evolution of its personalities and terrestrial lives here, but is itself an eternal portion of the divine and prior to the terrestrial manifestation. Para Prakritir Jiva Bhutaha. In this lower manifestation, Apara Prakriti, this eternal portion of the divine appears as a soul, a spark of the divine fire, supporting the individual evolution, supporting the mental, vital, and physical being. The psychic being is the spark growing into a fire, evolving with the growth of the consciousness. The psychic being is therefore evolutionary, not like the Jivatman prior to the evolution. But man is not aware of the self or the Jivatman. He is aware only of his ego, or he is aware of the mental being which controls the life and the body. But more deeply, he becomes aware of his soul or the psychic being as his true nature, the Purusha in the heart. The psychic being is the central being in the evolution. It proceeds from and represents the Jivatman, the eternal portion of the divine. When there is the full consciousness, the Jivatman and the psychic being join together. The ego is a formation of nature, but it is not a formation of physical nature alone. Therefore, it does not cease with the body. There is a mental and vital ego also. The base of the material consciousness here is not only the ignorance but the inconscience. That is, the consciousness is involved in the form of matter and energy of matter. It is not only the material consciousness, but the vital and the mental too that are separated from the truth by the ignorance. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the word jiva has two meanings in the Sanskrit tongues: living creatures, and the spirit individualized and upholding the living being in its evolution from birth to birth. In the later sense, the full term is Jivatman, the Atman, spirit or eternal self of the living being. It is spoken of figuratively by the Gita as an eternal portion of the divine, but the word fragmentation used is too strong. It could be applicable to the forms, but not to the spirit in them. Moreover, the multiple divine is an eternal reality antecedent to the creation here. An elaborate description of the Jivatman would be the multiple divine manifested here as the individualized self or spirit of the created being. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the Jivatman in its essence does not change or evolve. Its essence stands above the personal evolution within the evolution itself. It is represented by the personal, by the evolving psychic being, which supports all the rest of the nature. The Advaita Vedanta monism declares that the jiva has no real existence as the divine is indivisible. Another school attributes a real but not an independent existence to the jiva. It is, they say, one in essence, different in manifestation, as the manifestation is real, eternal, and not an illusion. Cannot be unreal.
The nameless gold, pale waters ran like glimmering A sigh was straying among happy leaves, cool perfumed with slow pleasure-burdened feet, faint stumbling breezes faltered among flowers. The white crane stood a vivid, motionless streak. Peacock and parrot jeweled soil and tree. The dove's soft moan enriched the enamored air, and far-winged wild drakes swam in silvery blue.
Our Lord says the dualistic schools affirm the jiva as an independent category or stand on the triplicity of God, soul, and nature. Our Lord says the soul takes birth each time a mind, life, and body and are formed of materials of the universal nature according to the soul's past evolution and its need for the future. When the body is dissolved, the vital goes into the vital brain and remains there for a time, but after a time, the vital sheath disappears. The last to dissolve is the mental sheath. Finally, the soul or the psychic being retires in the psychic world to rest there till a new birth is closed. This is the general course for ordinarily developed human beings. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says there are variations according to the nature of the individual and his development. For example, if the mental is strongly developed, then the mental being can remain. So also can the vital, provided they are organized by and centered around the true psychic being. They share the immortality of the psychic. The soul, says our Lord, the soul gathers the essential elements of its experience in life and makes it its basis of growth in the evolution. When it returns to birth, it takes up with its mental, vital, physical sheath so much of its karma as is useful to it in the new life for a further experience. It is really for the vital part of the being that Shraddha and rites are done, to help the being to get rid of the vital vibrations which still attach it to the earth or to the vital worlds, so that it may pass quickly to its rest in the psychic peace. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says the consciousness in the individual widens itself into the cosmic consciousness outside and can have any kind of dealing with it, penetrate, know its movements, act upon it, or receive from it, even become commensurate or with or contain it, which is what is meant in the language of the old yogas by having the Brahmananda within you.
From the stone fastness of his mountain cell, regarding the brief gladness of the days, his vast extended spirit couched behind.
The cosmic consciousness, says our Lord, is that of the universe, of the cosmic spirit and cosmic nature, with all the beings and forces within it. All that is as much conscious as a whole as the individual separately is, though in a different way. The consciousness of the individual is part of this, but a part feeling itself as a separate being. Yet, all the time, most of what he is comes into him from the cosmic consciousness, but there is a wall of separative ignorance between. Once it breaks down, he becomes aware of the cosmic self, of the consciousness of the cosmic nature, of the forces playing in it, etc. He feels all that as he now feels physical things and impacts. He finds it all to be one with his larger or universal self, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. There is the universal mental, universal vital, universal physical nature, and it is out of a selection of their forces and moments that the individualized mind, vital, and physical are made. The soul comes from beyond this nature of mind, life, and body. It belongs to the transcendent, and because of it, we can open to the higher nature beyond, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. The divine is always one, that is many. The individual spirit is part of the many side of the one, and the psychic being is what it puts forth to evolve here in the earth nature. In liberation, the individual self realizes itself as the one that is yet many. It may plunge into the one and merge or hide itself in its bosom. That is the laya of the Advaita. It may feel its oneness and yet, as part of the many, that is one, enjoy the divine. That is Dvaita Advaita, liberation. It may lay stress on its many aspects and be possessed by the divine, Vishistadvaita, or go on playing with Krishna in the eternal Vrindavan or the Vrindavan, the Dvaita liberation, or it may even being liberated remain in the Leela or manifestation or descend into it as often as it likes. The divine is not bound by the human philosophies. It is free in its play and free in its essence, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo, to be